Go and make disciples of all nations. Hey guys, it's me again, Douglas, and today I want to talk to you about missionaries and what a missionary is. Well, simply put, a missionary is just someone who goes to tell people about Jesus. Sometimes they're sent by a church or some other kind of organization. Sometimes they just go themselves, but it's always with the mission to evangelize and share the good news of Jesus Christ. And there have been a lot of missionaries. Some of them have been very famous, but most of them, I think most of us have never heard of. Their job, even though it is very important, is pretty thankless. Most people don't know who they are or what they have done or what they are currently doing. At my church, we had a missionary come and talk at our church because our church supports them. And I say a missionary, but it was a whole family. And they came and they talked to us about their job. And they talked about what it was like to be a missionary in the country where they were sharing the gospel. And it was really interesting hearing about, the different challenges that they had in sharing the gospel, not the least of which being that they had to learn a whole new language. And they talked about some of the major religions in this area where they were sharing the gospel and how difficult it was to sort of break down those strongholds that Satan had built up in these false religions. So they talked about some of the challenges that they were having, but they also talked about a lot of the successes that they were having, because they were sharing the gospel and there were people being saved. There were so many people who had never heard of Jesus who heard about him for the first time from this missionary family. And they believed in Jesus and became a part of their church and started telling their friends and family about Jesus for themselves. And that's awesome. I'm so glad for the people who are doing this work. In the book of Matthew, chapter 28, we have this very famous passage called the Great Commission, where Jesus was talking to his disciples and he gave them a command. And I believe that this command is for all of us, not just for the disciples that he was talking to at the time. Jesus said, "Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey all that I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." And that is exactly what missionaries do. They go to countries, they go to places where people need to hear about Jesus. Now, in one sense, we can all follow the Great Commission, whether you go to another country or not. So in one sense, all Christians should be missionaries. People need to hear about Jesus everywhere. Your next door neighbors need to hear about Jesus, and also the people who live on the other side of the world need to hear about Jesus. I really believe that we are all called to share the good news of Jesus Christ, but there are some of us who take that message not just, to our friends or family or neighbors. Some of us take the good news of Jesus Christ to people groups that have never heard of Jesus before. Or, there are several places where they have heard of Jesus, but they just need more workers, right? They need more people to help, build up the church. And again, I do believe that we are all called to share the good news of Jesus Christ, even if we're not all called to, move to a foreign country to tell people about Jesus. But I am so, so grateful for the men and women and even the kids who have answered the call that God has placed in their lives and have left behind what is familiar to go take the gospel to places where it needs to go. So my challenge to you guys today is that, well, for one, you would follow the Great Commission. You would go and make disciples. Maybe that means, sharing the good news with your neighbors or your friends at school. Maybe someday that'll mean moving to another country and sharing the good news that way. God doesn't call all of us to be, overseas missionaries, but if he does call you, answer that call. And the other part of the challenge is that you would find ways to support and pray for missionaries. A lot of missionaries really can't do their job without, financial support from individuals or churches back home. But more than just finances, which missionaries do need, they also need your prayers. Please pray for those who are taking the gospel to all nations. Some missionaries are in terrible, terrible danger. Some missionaries are in prison. Some missionaries are being killed. all to further the gospel, all to share the good news of Jesus Christ. Being a missionary is an incredibly important and incredibly difficult job. So we need to lift them up in prayer and support them any way that we can. I am so grateful for missionaries. Hey guys, I hope you like this video. And yeah, I don't know if you personally know any missionaries, but it's a hard job. And sometimes it can be pretty thankless. So if you know a missionary, could you reach out to them and let them know that you're praying for them? And if you'd like to learn how you can support a missionary, there are all sorts of ways to do that. There are many sending organizations that sort of handle a whole bunch of different missionary families. And I'm sure that the leadership of your church also knows good ways to connect with missionaries and support them either financially or through prayer. I really believe that it is all of our responsibility to, go and make disciples. And I also think it's our responsibility to help one another to share the gospel, to fulfill the Great Commission, to take the good news of Jesus Christ to all nations.